This is all about Bitcoin, a show dedicated to all things questions and markets related to Bitcoin, little b for the currency, and Bitcoin, big B for the network. A collective journey to understand, apply, and use this innovation, all Bitcoin, all the time. Let's have a live look at Bitcoin right now. The CoinDesk Bitcoin price XVX index is below the $30,000 threshold at $29,918. Bitcoin is down just over 1% over the past 24 hours. The most reliable reference prices for institutions since 2014 are now published under the CoinDesk brand, trusted globally as the leader in crypto news, events, and data. Let's take a look at some of our top headlines. The Luna Foundation Guard, the official stewards of Terra's Bitcoin reserves, saying it almost entirely depleted its BTC from around 80,000 Bitcoins to 313 Bitcoins. The remaining assets, which mostly comprise of crashed UST and Luna tokens that they traded with, will apparently be used to compensate investors. Meanwhile, a Morgan Stanley research report noting Bitcoin has fallen 40% since April, and this is no longer due to its correlation with equity markets. The investment manager cautioning that NFTs are next to watch after UST's collapse as the most speculative and leveraged area of the crypto markets come into focus. And former U.S. Federal Reserve Chairman Ben Bernanke telling CNBC Monday that he doesn't believe Bitcoin works as money, a store of value, or digital gold, noting how it would be impossible to price something like celery in Bitcoin because there's too little stability in its value. FTX CEO Sam Bankman-Fried is also catching critics on Twitter for repeating his view that Bitcoin doesn't work for payments, but qualifying that it does have potential as a store of value.
The chart of the day is brought to you by Crypto.com, the world's fastest growing crypto app.
Bitcoin tracking 7 straight weeks of losses for the first time in its history amid a downturn in broader markets, stricter crypto regulations, waning retail interest, and systemic risks in the crypto sector, data shows. Bitcoin, the world's largest cryptocurrency by market capitalization, has long been positioned as a hedge against inflation or an investment that is supposed to protect against the decreased purchasing power of currencies or other assets. That has failed to happen so far, however, as Bitcoin is highly correlated with global markets and has traded similar to a risky tech stock in the past few months. Meanwhile, some analysts say investors are selling Bitcoin as it advances, FX Pro telling CoinDesk, quote, the trend of selling cryptocurrency on upside movements remains. Adding to the downside is the bleak outlook for U.S. monetary policy, where no light at the end of the tunnel with rate hikes can be seen yet. We expect the bears not to loosen their grip in the coming weeks. In our opinion, a turnaround in sentiment may not come until the approach of the 2018 highs area near 19,600. All right, Bitcoin fell as low as $24,000 last week as stablecoin Tether briefly lost its peg to the U.S. dollar. Sentiment among investors was already reeling from the implosion of Terra Luna and its stablecoin Terra USD. Joining us now to discuss is Pratik Shah, CrossTower Global Head of Trading. Hello there, Pratik. Thanks for joining us. So let's take a look at Bitcoin first. We'd like to hear your outlook on where the price is headed.
Hi, Christine. Thank you. For the price, I think we're in part of a broader consolidation range, and we see upside resistance around 35,000. We're kind of trading right below that 30,000 area right now. So I think you really mentioned earlier in your segment that lots of institutions are out there recommending kind of a sell-on rally approach, and we see it the same way. We see lots of upside resistance, people reducing a lot of risk, in the face of a continued Fed that's tightening monetary policy. Rates are going to be continuing to go higher. So we see risk reduction across the board. So I see it in a broader range. I think we could potentially see new lows in Bitcoin ahead. But I think there is a kind of a relief rally, which from our perspective, we will see a lot of institutions and individuals reducing their risk to Bitcoin over the course of the
question I often get is how long will this downturn last? And we have seen all-time highs with Bitcoin at $69,000. So there's certainly been a more than 50% drawdown since then. We've seen in Bitcoin it can go anywhere as low as 80% of a drawdown, which would bring it around the $14,000 level. So how low do you think it can go, and for how long?
I don't want to speculate on how low we can go. It's certainly, we see this as a corrective phase in a broader and a structural trend higher in Bitcoin. If you look at where you ask me where Bitcoin's going to be 1 year from now, it could be unchanged, it could be lower. But if you ask me, as you increase the time frame, say 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, I will naturally say it's going to be much, much higher than here, right? So it's hard to place a down, a price on a lower end. It's just on, how quickly the sell-off in the broader macro, economy and the markets functions as well.
Well, Pratik, at CrossTower, you guys did list Terra's Luna as well as UST. So I wonder, what was the fallout for CrossTower for that whole collapse?
We managed our exposure pretty well. We did have some of our exposures in Luna and UST, but we were able to exit positions quite quickly, well ahead of what happened last week. We've been reducing a lot of our positions for quite a few months. We expected the reserve to be dwindling. It was pretty telegraphed that they had diminishing reserves, and we didn't want to expose ourselves or our clients to that exposure. So we reduced that well ahead of it.
Why do you think so many people grasped onto the Terra Luna community when there were so many warnings? There was a lot of criticism and a lot of previous failures with algorithmic stablecoins. So why did so many people just pile on and let this thing get so big? And what are some of the lessons learned in your view?
I think the lessons learned are that completely a fully algorithmic stablecoin is still an experiment that has yet to be proven. I think a lot of people grasped onto it because it was a very successful blockchain. I mean, the technology behind the blockchain itself has great UI, great developing team, and it's seamless. So people did buy into the story and the narrative. I think it was a little premature in terms of what its potential was. I think a lot of the forward demand, a lot of that was actually pretty much baked into the Luna token itself. So I think the price a little got ahead of itself. And I think that led a lot of people to continue to believe in that,
Going forward, would CrossTower be a little more reluctant to list something like an algorithmic stablecoin that offered 20% yield or something similar?
We didn't list the coin in terms of what clients ultimately want to do with their own tokens, but it's just a bigger, broader, cautionary tale to the rest of the industry of when you go into an algorithmic stablecoin, there are obviously bigger risks to it than just a 20% yield that's being offered on the storefront.
All right. Pratik, thanks for joining us. Appreciate your insights. That was Pratik Shah, CrossTower Global Head of Training. All right, coming up, we'll head over to Africa to check up on crypto exchange Mara and how they see expanding across the continent. Welcome back. Pan-African centralized crypto exchange Mara recently raising $23 million in a funding round led by Coinbase, Alameda Research, and others. CEO Chi Nnandi saying Africa has incredible potential with expansion plans in Nigeria, Kenya, and other parts of East Africa and Francophone countries. Joining us now to discuss is Mara CEO Chi Nnandi. Hello, Chi, thanks for joining us. All right, so you've just had this $23 million raise. What are you going to be spending on first?
Well, I mean, we're really excited for our launch in July of this year. Just in a few months, we'll be launching a retail brokerage app that allows the crypto curious to be introduced to Bitcoin and Ethereum. And actually, next week, we'll be launching a pre-launch app that will allow folks to sign up and sign up to be part of the Maraverse, the Mara tribe, in the few months leading up into the launch of the retail app.
Very cool. According to the World Economic Forum, crypto adoption has grown by over $100 billion in Africa as of June 2021. I wonder, how big is it now and what is the potential?
I mean, cryptocurrency has the ability to be transformative for Africa. But right now, the barriers of entry are extremely high, and Mara is here to present that solution. We have an opportunity here on the continent to leapfrog from paper ownership to digital ownership. This is the kind of foundational change that we need here in Africa to build for this next entire century.
All right. Well, crypto is available to everyone around the globe with an internet connection. So I wonder, how can Africans be empowered by this potential, as well as I think you mentioned to us Web3 products, but also there are considerable barriers to entry in terms of needing an internet connection. So how do you address that?
Well, I mean, that's absolutely the case. You're going to need internet to access the crypto economy, but cryptocurrency and blockchain has the ability to really close gaps here in sub-Saharan Africa. And what we're doing is in working with governments, working with regulators, really helping them to understand that what is the necessary infrastructure that needs to be put into place in order to embrace the crypto economy. And so you take countries like Central African Republic, where internet penetration is quite low right now. We're there to advise them on the importance of widespread internet adoption, but also the importance of widespread IDs, which is quite important because there's already really strong grassroots adoption of crypto all across the continent. It's already happening. We know this, but we haven't had a legalized, centralized exchange that protects consumers, that allows them to bring all their transactions into the light, to really bring KYC AML standards that are global to the African continent.
You mentioned the Central African Republic, and they recently made Bitcoin legal tender there. And I understand Mara, plans to offer some guidance. So what are your thoughts on that one? What kind of guidance are you offering?
Well, it's interesting. Central African Republic is quite similar to, in ways, to the Niger Delta, which is where I really started my journey in crypto in Africa, where you're dealing with low internet penetration and low IDs and such, and realizing that there are lots of places all over the continent like that have these barriers of entry into the crypto economy. So we're advising them. We're speaking to other governments and just really stressing the importance of these elements before you can even enter the crypto economy, but then also speaking to them about use cases of blockchain technology. Because as I said before, we have an opportunity to leapfrog from paper to digital ownership. And it's going to be a 24, 25-year-old Kenyan, Nigerian kid that builds that dApp that brings digital ownership to the rest of his cohort in this very young population we have on the continent.
Some of the critics of that Bitcoin as legal tender law in Central African Republic said that, not enough folks were basically consulted on this. The regional central bank wasn't sufficiently consulted on this. And you mentioned that, you would like to expand and be the centralized source, a trusted exchange in Africa. But given, there are just so many states, so many different countries, regional differences, I wonder how you see that coming together.
Yeah, we actually are in the middle of a big offsite meeting here for the company here in Kenya. We brought the entire company together, and we've got folks from Morocco, from Uganda, from Kenya, from Nigeria, and really bringing together all these cultures. We're really one of the first truly Pan-African crypto companies or Pan-African tech companies. And that's from the beginning. And that speaks to how our culture within the company and interacting with the different governments. I like to say that there's actually a 24-year-old in Nairobi actually has much more in common with a 24-year-old in Nigeria. And that's just the nature of this young burgeoning population that we have on the continent that is digitally native and very soon to be crypto native.
So you think that there can be some sort of pan regulation or pan?
Absolutely.
Okay, interesting.
I believe that there's a very strong Pan-African.
Because in Nigeria, it's a whole different issue. I mean, they want to limit cryptocurrencies compared to Central African Republic.
Right. Just like in every country in the world, they're going to have different approaches to looking at crypto regulation. We are just there to help guide the regulators. I'm a big believer in doing things that only you can do. And the reason why I came back to the continent is that I realized that, many of my young cousins are 24, 25 years old, and many of the leaders of the countries are in their 60s. And when you're kind of sitting in between those age groups, you can sit there with the president of Central African Republic, you can sit there with a governor in Nigeria or a regulator in Kenya and understand that person's pain points, understand how much the world has changed in the last 20 years. And so I find that actually quite interesting, along with the same Pan-African energy that's happening amongst the youth, where in most countries, 70% of the population is under the age of 30. And that's what's really interesting, that you can go to Nairobi, you can go to Lagos, you can go to Kampala, and you're listening to the same music in all those different places. And so we're really capturing that Pan-African crypto energy. And that's why we're launching as a Pan-African company and launching in Kenya and Nigeria, East and West, at the exact same time.
Well, Chi, you have no small task ahead of you, but I like your enthusiasm, your positivity. I hope you get there. Congratulations on this latest raise. All right. That was Chi Nnandi, CEO of Mara. All right, that's it for All About Bitcoin. I'm your host, Christine Lee, and we'll do it all over again tomorrow at 3 o'clock in New York. Also join us tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. for First Mover. You're watching CoinDesk TV.